The driver of this Mercedes doesn't know it yet, but he's going to make not one, not two, but three very stupid decisions. Decisions that mean he's not going to be racing on Le Mans Ultimate for a little while. Because in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what he did and what he did to me. I was the victim of revenge punts. So hello everyone, welcome to another video. Now, I'm going to show you some clips of a race I did off camera. This was one of the GT3 beginner daily races at Bahrain Outer. Now, I raced this combo the other day in the Porsche and I didn't really know the circuit, so I got my head down, did some more practice, jumped in the BMW, and I actually found some pace. And for the race that you're going to see, we managed to qualify on pole with a 1 minute 12.869. So at this point, I was on top of the world, looking forward to a really good race. Now, as I've said, this one was off camera, and I'll try and show you everything that happened. Now, I've got to hold my hands up. I played a part in this. I wasn't completely innocent. But if you followed the channel recently, you'll probably realise that I'm a bit sick of being battered left, right and centre. And in my last race at Bahrain, I said I was going to fight fire with fire. People are just going to get one chance to race clean, and if they don't, they're going to get exactly the same in return. So we'll jump on track then, ready for the race start. You can see the Mercedes behind me in the mirror. So away we go, decent start, covering the inside down to turn number one. All we're thinking about at this point, consolidating the position, get through safely without being killed. Which we did, nice and safely through turn number one. No dramas. Now try and settle into a bit of a rhythm. Nothing dramatic going on behind. Everybody's behaving themselves. All we're thinking about now is try and get some heat built up into the tyres. Try and extend that gap if we can. Now every lap we seem to get a pretty decent run out of the final turn. And the gap was always about 3 or 4 tenths, and he wasn't able to close that up going down into turn number one. And that was the same story, lap after lap after lap. So everything was looking all right, but going down into the final turn at the end of lap number 3, we get a bit of a tap from the rear from the Mercedes. Now, looking at his brake trace after the race in the replay, it was one of those 100% guys. You know, you brake at 100%. Braking at 100%, in my opinion, isn't the most efficient way of driving. Yeah, you might get the car stopped quicker, but if you brake a little bit too late, well, you've got nowhere to go. That was always my argument on ACC. But we've regrouped. We did get a little bit of damage to the rear, but the car seems fine. So we're just approaching the final turn, going on to lap number 9. Now, the gap going on to the straight was pretty consistent between me and the Mercedes behind, although this time he's a little bit closer. And I knew that if he was going to make a move, it would have to be a bit of a send, and it was, and he uses me as a bit of a berm. Without me being there, I think he's going wide. But then we can see going into turn number 2, he gives me room, we both stay on track, happy days, but that's his one chance. So the end of this lap, going on to lap number 10, and he starts weaving. You know, that's a red flag for me straight away. If somebody starts weaving before the final lap, well, you know what kind of person they are. Like, what is he doing? It's ridiculous. So we'll go for a little look down the outside. Nothing happening there. So again, we've just got to tuck him behind, which is fine. Nothing wrong at all with what he did there. But again, more weaving as we go around the lap. That gets right on my bracket. I'm not going to lie. But we're keeping the pressure on, keeping him honest. So we sat behind him for another lap. This is going on to lap number 12. Again, all he's done when I've been behind him is weaving. I didn't weave once when he was behind. Anyway, lap number 12, he goes to the inside and we sit behind him and don't allow him to come out. He's got to stay there because if he doesn't, then I'm going to go up the inside. We move over last minute, brake, get really good overlap down the outside, but again, uses us as a berm, and I've had enough by this point, so I then stick my nose in the inside. We both end up going off track, but he comes off worse than me and gets damage to the rear of his car. So for complete transparency, we'll have a look again from the chase cam. So going down to turn 1, we move out to the left hand side. He opens up the turn as you would expect him to do. Both go around there side by side. I've got no business here at this point sticking my nose in. But on the exit of the turn, he could have just opened the steering, took the penalty, and we would have been fine. And we'll stop it here. I'm right behind him, and you can see he's turning in as if I'm not there. Like, where am I supposed to go? And we'll stop it again here. He could have opened his steering up, took the penalty, and it would have been fine. But he didn't. He wanted to force me back over to the left. And that's what I'm sick and tired of. And as a result, he ended up in the wall. Now, in hindsight, looking back at that, I could have done things completely differently. When I lost the overlap going around the outside of turn 1, I should have backed off. But because he tapped me in the rear early on, then used me as a berm turn 1, and then started weaving, well, it got my back up. You know, your behaviour affects somebody else's behaviour, and in turn, their behaviour affects your behaviour. That's just the way the world works. So if Le Mans Ultimate turned round and said, Dave, that was out of order, you instigated that. In hindsight, I would have said, yeah, you're probably right. But you know, at that point, both of us were just as stubborn as each other. But we were able to continue, and we didn't actually lose that much time, and the yellow Mercedes in front was actually P1. But at this point, I didn't know what that other Mercedes had in store for me. So we're now on the next lap, and pretty soon you will see somebody familiar coming into view. Just where you don't want to see somebody that's angry with you. And that's at the bottleneck of this circuit, the tight left-right here. There he is. We'll go on the outside of him, and he just pushes us off right into the wall. That was his first bad decision. And then he tries to hit us again as we drive across the gravel and fails miserably. But our car is pretty beaten up at this point. We've got damage to all the panels and we've got damage to the front left steering. But we're still sitting in about P7. So I thought, right, he's done what he wanted to do. Let's just try and salvage what we can and bring it home. So a couple of laps later, look who's sitting waiting for us down in turn 1, the Mercedes, and this is his bad mistake number 2. He does the same move, tries to push us off, but we actually run away at this point over the grass like a coward. I'm running away, but I get a big cut penalty, so I've got to slow down, otherwise I'll get penalised. So he then goes in front. So I couldn't run away like I wanted to. So at this point, we're just kind of waiting to see what he's going to do, because I know for a fact that he's not going to let it lie. So we're catching him up again where we don't want to catch him up, and he's going to try and do exactly the same that he did last time, but we outsmart him here and we get down the inside. Tries to take us out but fails miserably, and then we run off down to the final turn. I mean, that was lucky for us, but as you'll see, it's not so lucky for the Lexus. That guy had done nothing wrong. Shameful. And not much else happened after that, and we brought it home P7. Now, I think you'll agree that what he did was absolutely ridiculous. Over the last few weeks, I've been battered left, right and centre, and not once did it enter my head to then retaliate and take somebody out. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, in hindsight, I would do things completely differently. I would have conceded that position going into turn 2 and we wouldn't have had the contact. But on the flip side, he could have done things differently. He could have given me room going into turn 2. And when he didn't, he could have opened up his steering to go a little bit wide. You know, everybody has a part to play, but you can't take it to that next level. Now, you might be wondering what happened to that driver. Now, I obviously submitted the report after the cool down period. And what LMU have got absolutely bang on, they tell you the result of the protest. That driver was given a 720-hour suspension. That's 30 days. And a reduction to his safety rating. I don't know how much of a reduction. Would it bump you back down to bronze? Because you certainly don't deserve any more than that when you're doing that. LMU are definitely leading the way when it comes to dealing with protests. Now, talking about protests, I'll quickly mention it. I made a short about bump drafting on Le Mans Ultimate and how one person bump drafting me up the straight gave me 18 contacts. That obviously affects your badge on LMU, which some people work really hard for. Now, I reported that driver, like I said I would, and that driver got a strike, which I think is appropriate. You know, a bit of a slap on the wrist. Don't be bump drafting. Now, I know snitches get stitches, but I want my experience when I'm racing online to be as good as it possibly can be. A lot of you will probably follow my channel because of the way I race, of my mentality. I always like to race clean and fair, you know, and it's the old give respect, get respect. And if somebody doesn't respect me on track or give me room or runs into me, then they can expect exactly the same in return. Now, I am pleased that it's not a permanent suspension. You know, if he does that again, then he deserves to be permanently banned. But a 30-day ban, think about what you've done, come back and change. But that's the end of story time from Bahrain. And it gives you an idea of what will happen to you if you decide to do that. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great week. See you later. Cheers.